right, well, it's a pleasure to welcome back to Winnipeg Sports Talk, this time live in person in his hometown, Andrew Harris. What is going on? Welcome home.
Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, it's great to be home. It's great to be here. We're at Nicolino's, my favorite watering hole, a pizza joint, pasta joint, and it's great to be here with you.
Well, I figured if you were coming back for a couple days and we were going to hook up for a quick interview, why not pop down to Nick Ziff's? Any good time to hook up in person, but also see Nick and the gang down here. Big weekend for you. Tonight, being honored, I guess, officially with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is retiring a Bomber, and then we're going to get to in a minute the release of Running Back Relentless. This project. You got a lot on your plate right now.
Yeah, it's been a busy few months and leading up to this. I mean, we did the premiere at the Met back in April. Officially retired as a Bomber, which was awesome. We had over 400 people come out and. Just kind of cementing, my legacy and career and as a Bomber, it was awesome. And then tonight's, I'm really looking forward to taking in the stadium as a spectator and enjoying a couple drinks and enjoying the fans and as a fan now and just the other side of the game, which is pretty cool.
Get a chance to be part of that best atmosphere in the Canadian Football League. Hey, listen, just before we get to the movie, I just want to ask you about being a Bomber. Like I've said for many years, considering the turnaround that happened after you came here, winning the Grey Cups, that the signing of Andrew Harris by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is arguably the most impactful free agent signing in the history of the Canadian Football League. You grew up here. You left. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, the impact that you made on the field, the impact that your presence, I think, made in the stands. And, I mean, talk to anyone involved in that organization. They'll tell you that the big culture change really happened when you came here. Tell us, go back to finishing up in BC and the situation that presented itself to come back to Winnipeg at a time where the Bombers weren't at the top of the league. Frankly, they'd been a long time underachieving and not bringing a Grey Cup championship that you, of course, were integral in being a part of bringing it back.
Yeah, I mean, going back to 2015 and even the contract negotiations with Wally, with the Lions, they kind of offered me a contract mid-season, and it was good money, but I knew if I hit free agency that I was going to get a lot more, so I held out, and then I remember the Grey Cup was in Winnipeg that year in 2015. And I ran into a bunch of people with the organization, and the talks started to get going. And Darren Cameron was a big one. Just kind of seeing where I was feeling me out and seeing where I was at. And then once the contract talk started happening, and then I kind of just looked at wow, like I have an opportunity to make a big mark on the contract side, but come back to a team that wasn't really doing well, and I knew there was gonna be a lot of pressure, being a hometown kid and coming back and a lot of distraction and you knew
how much this city wanted it too.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
And it was like, I'm gonna come out here and say, we're gonna win a championship. This is gonna be a championship football team, and bring that attitude, and kind of cocking away and not really understanding what all that meant, but meeting the coaches, the players that we had in the locker room at that time, and that first year was a little frustrating, but you started to see it, when we got more bits and pieces and, Dressler, Medlock, Biggie, Dembski, Willie, all these kind of pieces just started to come together, and we really we started to gel. And, but yeah, so many great leaders within that organization that kind of came and made it happen. And, those 5 years as a Bomber were, dream come true for me. But just the growth that we went from 2016 and to 2021 and even now, right? Obviously, they're not having a great start to the season, but really the cream of the crop and the standard of what every team wants to be, from how they're coached, how they play the game, penalties, just from top to bottom, on the field, off the field. Everyone tries to emulate what the Bombers are doing.
Well, and I mean, that has been the case. It wasn't that way for a long time, and the signing of you and the others that you mentioned going in to kind of create that, new culture under Mike O'Shea, and then winning the thing, and then obviously going back to back. It's, the impact that you in particular, but this entire group has made here will be I mean, we remembered forever. And I think, we'll get past, guys will finish their careers, and in 10 and in 20 years, we'll look back at this golden era Bomber football that, in a lot of ways, as I say, one of the most key moments was signing you from BC and coming back.
Well, yeah, just to interrupt you there, but even for me, like growing up and watching like the Steagles, Charles Roberts, and those guys were the heroes and like amazing football players, but like they didn't win cups. You know what I mean? So, when you realize that and how important this team was from my at a young age, and looking at going to games and how impactful that was without any Grey Cups, when you kind of flip that and say like, wow, there was a massive drought there for so long and we were able to get it done back to back, which is pretty cool.
Well, and listen, I mean, we're seeing the remnants of that right now, in the sold out crowds. I mean, the stadiums, it has been, this era of Bomber football you were such a big part of, continues to grow. And I think it's been great for the league. And, people are looking at what's happened in Winnipeg, how the Bombers did it after so much utility for so many years, and, inspiring a few other organizations as well. Andrew, I could talk to you about your Bomber years for a long time, but I think, what is particularly timely right now with the release of Running Back Relentless is, your football story, but also your story off the field. Tell us, for folks that have not yet seen it, we're going to get to it. It's being released right now on a number of streaming services. The movie that is coming out right now is obviously has got a lot of football in it, but this is more about your journey, challenges. I mean, going back to growing up here in Winnipeg, going out to BC, and then obviously this journey that's taken you to what will be a Hall of Fame career in the CFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's a story about a football player, but it's not a football documentary, So it's a really, really dark, deep dive and vulnerable and raw of a lot of childhood trauma, things that I kind of buried. And as athletes, as men, I think we bury and pack a lot of stuff in. And I was doing that for a long time, and I just kept packing it in and kind of just wearing this mask. And it was a facade of, who I really was and how I was feeling at a lot of times. And, you kind of get to a breaking point with certain things in your life. And I hit a breaking point. And then it was right after, kind of being on top of my game and winning the Grey Cup and MVP and all that. And there was a lot of things that I had buried and going through behind the scenes that, the COVID year happens, and I went to a really, really dark place, and it was hard for me to get out of, and it was really scary and dangerous. Thinking about harming myself in a crazy way, and I didn't really talk about these things and let it out, and I saw myself grow so much from getting out of there, and I had certain people in my life at that time that helped me get through it, and if I didn't have those resources or people, I don't know where I'd be right now. So the reason why I wanted to tell this story was to shed some light, and I just feel how impactful it was for myself, and even going to Toronto and changing the way I was as a player. I wasn't impactful as much in the field, but as a leader, and just the growth of an athlete from starting where I did in junior to BC to here to Toronto, and then all the personal things that went on behind the scenes. And I'm very proud of everything I've done on the field, but I am so much more proud of myself and what I handled off the field. And that's, you'll kind of get a glimpse of that and see, some of those stories and things, in the documentary. And I think it's going to help a lot of people and impact them. And it's not just athletes, not just football players. I think this will be relatable to a lot of people. And even at the premieres that we've had, I had in Toronto, people that aren't even football fans or, know my story, came up to me and said, wow, like that was very impactful and relatable. So, the big thing is just coming out. And again, I've never been one to talk about these things. I've always I always looked at, the mental health and being vulnerable, in a negative way in my eyes, right?
That's sort of a football thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And realizing how hard it is to bury all that stuff and how dangerous it can be, is really opened my eyes to the whole thing, and now being more forthcoming and sharing vulnerabilities and everyone has bad days, bad weeks, bad months, bad years, and you don't really know what they're going through at the time. And sometimes it just you don't know how far someone is on that deep end, and it's just important for us to be able to check in with everyone and be there for each other.
Listen, the early reviews from everyone that's seen it has been it's a phenomenal piece, and I think what people will really find interesting, to build off what you just said, is just how deep it gets in and the access. Flip people on just how this was put together, because, not only is there unprecedented access over the course of about 18 months, but, there's footage and video that, date back years before this project even started, during your time in the CFL.
Yeah, so the producer, Taylor Prestige for Up Canada Films, we had worked together with some Team Shaw stuff that when Shaw was associated with the CFL, so we had footage from 2012. We did a small little piece through TSN in 2018. And then basically the last 18 months to 2 years, they basically had full access to my life. And, anytime, we're showing up with the camera today, whether it was, they were in there for my surgeries. They were there, through big moments in my life, just my day to day. Sometimes they just be in the vehicle with me while I'm driving to work, or, so.
Were you ever hesitant about this level of access?
Oh man, even after the Toronto event, I was like, why did I do this? I'm like, why did I give all this out? But I'm like, man, and I talked to my partner Nika. She's like, this is gonna help people. This is a good thing. But even still, I'm still like, I get like.
You're really putting yourself out there in a way that you've never done before, and frankly, very few people do.
Especially as athletes, right? We try to only show the good and the positive, and that's the thing, man. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a place they've been where it wasn't as glamorous. It wasn't always easy, and there's a lot more stories out there. My goal with this is to get more athletes, people, CEOs, like whoever it is, just to shed some light on. Yeah, you can be performing at a high level in your job and your career, but what's behind the scenes and what you're dealing with outside of, what everyone else sees in the public eye.
How you mentioned the very successful premiere here in Winnipeg, one again in Toronto. What how much have you enjoyed the feedback, and what has the feedback been from folks? You kind of mentioned there's some non-football people that have seen it.
Yeah.
Because this is more of a human story than anything about X's and O's in particular games.
Yeah.
What's it been like to hear people talk about it after seeing such a raw version of yourself through some very tough times?
Well, it's funny, like watching it. Even in Winnipeg, it was still kind of like fresh, and I was still critiquing it and looking at how could we change it and what could we add, what could we take away, and I couldn't even watch it in the Winnipeg. I had my mom sitting in front of me there, and she's crying 5 minutes in, and so I went upstairs and had about 8 tequilas and just chilled out. I was stressing. Last Friday we did the viewing in Toronto, and I finally just accepted it for what it is. This just is. It is my story. It is a thing, and this is going to be impactful. And I saw it from a way different perspective and a different lens. And again, the feedback was amazing. Again, people that are in sports, I had some teammates from Toronto there. They're like, holy shit, man! Like I knew you were going through some stuff, but I didn't realize it was this deep. Or I sent it out to Brady and AJ, like the two guys I kind of mentored and just kind of showed them. And AJ's like, yeah, I got to figure something to piss me off now and make me angry and, get that chip, because everyone has different things that motivate them. And, whether it's, something small, something big. And, and a lot of my career, I channeled a lot of negative in my life to be great on the field. And, playing with that anger and that chip, it was more personal a lot of times than it was, just for the love of the game.
Well, we often joked about the chip on your shoulder, which was more like a boulder. And listen, it was a driving force that made you the player that you were. And listen, the longevity of a player at that position. That's the other thing I think people will see. In addition to you and what was going on, between your ears and your head, the toll that professional football takes, particularly on a position that you play.
Yeah.
With the longevity, which is, frankly, unheard of.
Yeah.
it all comes in together in this piece, and people see the challenges to to get to the top, to stay at the top, but also, a lot of things that probably fans would never possibly imagine when you're seeing these big football stars do their things on television.
Well, yeah, I mean, even it's highlighted in the documentary, like my last 3 years, getting hurt mid-season and making it back for playoffs, and in 2021, I, popped my hamstring and missed the last 6 to 7 weeks, and then got back for their West Final. Then 2022, tore my pec mid-season, and that's a 6-month recovery. Got back in 2.5 months for that, and then played in the East Final after having my son, and then beating the Bombers in the Grey Cup, and then last year it was like another knee injury, and I felt like I'm invincible. I can do this again, and as you'll see in the documentary, I just, your time eventually is up, and playing that game against Montreal, I just I didn't have it anymore. And that's the hard thing to accept. Your mind thinks you can still do these things, and your body just says, all right, man, that's enough. You've
How much better are you feeling now that you're not getting hit 25 times a week?
Yeah, I feel great, but the competitive itch is killing me. I'm not a golfer. I'm actually playing senior hockey next year for the Tilsonburg Thunder. So
nice.
We start in September. So
Watch out to the rest of that league.
Yeah, no kidding. I've been playing beer league for too long. I got to learn to keep my head up. But once I get that figured out, I'm going to be throwing the body around a little bit, which will be fun.
Well, yeah. I tell you what, I mean, there's a lot of great things happening in your life. Yeah. Obviously, your partner, a beautiful young son, and more time to be a dad and be around that. I'm sure that's phenomenal. And people are going to get a chance to see, an incredible look behind the scenes at some of the challenges on the field, off the field, and your entire journey that takes us to right now. Running Back Relentless is coming out on. You probably learn a lot of the business stuff too on the side, but I mean, this is now on the major streaming platforms, Apple, Google Play right now, coming to Amazon. I mean, fill people in on how they can see this and everything that they'll see when they get it. Yeah,
so you can go to 33film.ca. There's all the links up there. But you can find it on Apple TV, Google Play, which is kind of YouTube movies, and then it'll be on Amazon next week. We had some subtitle issues we had to figure out on the French side of things. So, but yeah, really exciting to just when you think I'm like, oh, I got a movie on Amazon or Apple TV. And again, when starting this journey in junior and playing and being where I'm at now, it's actually unbelievable. I'm just enjoying the journey, and I've always just said I want to make an impact wherever I'm at. And now that I'm done, this is just the next step of impacting other people and maybe helping shed some light for people in dark places and just paying it forward for me. Well, your legacy is going to live on in blue and gold and at the stadium forever, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the reaction from folks when they get to see this piece. Andrew, great to have you back in the peg and back on WST. Look forward to seeing you on the other side of the stands tonight at the game. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Looking forward. Thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate it.